Hi guys, today we're working with variables in C++, and this is another asynchronous extract from teaching material that you should be following whenever you have time. So the first thing I'm going to do is move this curly brace over here and just use to the style. You don't have to move it there. It doesn't make any difference to the source code itself. It's more of a stylistic approach, and just be consistent. And this is what we got from the last tutorial or video. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all those and that. So we're going to start simple, and we're going to talk about variables. These are the fundamental constructs in pretty much any programming language, and this is something that you use to store data. So let's keep our standard output hello world print line, and let's do something like that. So this is a declaration and assignment, declaration of A and also assignment of value 3 to A. The general form in its simplistic view is variable type followed by variable name, then you have the equals symbol, and you have the variable value and a semicolon. And whatever you see in C++ in terms of value assignments, I'm going to just simplify this and kind of ignore L values, R values, and stuff like that. So whenever you see something like this, you can pretty much guarantee that this is going to be the variable name, this is going to be the variable type. So whatever weird stuff that you see on the left, followed by some stuff in the middle, an equals sign, and then some stuff like that, just some arbitrarily typed characters, then you can kind of guess that this is going to be the type or whatever the name of your variable is, and this is going to be the value. And typically the value will also have the same type as the type of the variable, because they need to be assignable, or rather this thing needs to be assignable to that thing. So let's ignore this garbage, get rid of that. Actually, I'm just going to comment this out so that you can still have this as a comment. So if we look at this statement again, you can see that an int is the type of the variable, a is the name of the variable, then you have the equals sign, and you have the variable value. So after that line, the variable a now stores the value 3, and we can even check that by printing it to the terminal. Let's just do that, keep things simple. If you run this, you should see hello world followed by 3. Here we have our hello world and then the value of 3, which was stored in the variable called a. It isn't actually stored within the variable, but things like memory is something that we're going to cover a lot later on. But for now, just think of this as something that can store things. And the types of things are defined by this syntax or symbol. Right, so that's an int. Where do we use ints? Well, you use ints in C++ in exactly the same way as you would use ints in Java. They're slightly different, but in terms of storing whole numbers, that's the way to go. So if you want to store a whole number, such as 1, 3, million, 5, then you would use an int. Now, what if you wanted to store a decimal value, as in a value that has decimal places in it? Let's go with that. For example, 3.0. or 5. So whenever there is a point in there, you will need to store this as a float or a double. So an alternative would be float. But you don't use floats too often in Java, but you would have used in the first year your doubles, which means this is also familiar to you. So whenever you need a value that has decimal places in it, use a double. And similarly, you can print that to the terminal. Because we haven't put the end line character, it prints 3 and then immediately prints 3.45. So if you want to separate them so that each value is printed on a new line, you want to say that after this value, also add the end line character. So you can see hello world, 3 and 3.45. I hope I'm not going too fast. I don't think so. So, but if I am, then just repeat whatever the first part of this video contains, which is int and double. Now let's move further. So something that you're going to use a lot is a string. It's, again, kind of like Java string in terms of where you want to use it. It's a collection of characters, or rather a sequence of characters. So let's go with name. And let's go with Bob. So you can, again, even if there's a lot of stuff in here, you can still see that this conforms to the general form that we discussed earlier. You have the type, then a space, then the variable name, and then the variable value. And this is just to help you with your future code bases, because your assignments are going to have reasonably large code base in them, which means if you end up with some weird looking thing, then you should more or less guess that it's always the type first, then the name, then the value. For future reference, this may not be true for other programming languages, but it is true for Java and C++. Right, let's print this to the screen. And then add the end line. And also do this for our 3.45, so that the Bob name is printed on a separate line. Okay, so we have hello world, 3.45, and Bob. Now, from now on, each video will contain some kind of a task for you to complete in the asynchronous slot where the video is supposed to be watched. I mean, you can watch the video at any time. You don't have to follow the timetable to the letter. But there will be a task for you to complete. And don't worry if you don't complete it within 1 hour. So, task for today is to use variables to create some kind of a character, for example, in a game. I'm just going to do this task below. So what you could do is say my character's name is something. Then you could do character age is something. And then something like height in meters. Then you could do weight in kilograms or any unit, and then just print it to the screen. That ought to be a good exercise, because this will, first of all, help you kind of get your head around different types of variables. There are a lot more types of variables, but int, double, and string are likely to be the ones that will be used most, at least in your assignment code bases. And then just print into your screen so that you know how to print to the screen different types of variables. Good news is it's exactly the same syntax. So you could print char name, or if you don't want to store something in a variable, you could just print it directly there. So you could say my character's name is, and then print char name. So this operator, which is kind of like output operator, you could think of this as a plus in Java, where you can combine multiple strings, concatenate them. Semantically, it's not an equivalent in C++, but it should give you the same result. Then you have my character's name is ASDF. Well, you can be more creative than that. So come up with your either in-game character or something else that you want to kind of create with these types of variables of string, int, and double, and then just print stuff to the screen so that you can see the values in these variables. Another thing you might want to do is also set a different value. So this is where you initialize your variable for the first time. Print it to the screen, and then once you've done that, set it to something else. And then print to the screen. So essentially the task is for you to just familiarize yourself with variables and how to declare them, how to initialize them, and how to use them. And in the next video, we'll do an if statement, which is a conditional. Thanks for watching.